Всем привет! Welcome to this video, welcome to my channel. This video is going to be a update or progress report in Russian for the month of March 2023. And the last time I made an update was a month ago. And generally speaking, for I think for progress in anything, 1 month is not a lot of time, really. I mean, I think it's probably a topic for another video, but 1 month in anything, I don't know. And what I can think of is sports improvement or weight loss or I don't know, learning an instrument or anything. A month is a really short time to gauge progress, but this is still a progress update because I know more things, even if it's not an exponential progress or exponential leap compared to, let's say, months ago. Maybe 14-15 months ago, when I started started learning Cyrillic, of course. But this update is more of I got new materials in Russian that just arrived in the mail. Got delivered to me. So that's what I'm going to be discussing. Okay. So first is when I started with Russian, I bought these two beginner books, or not beginner. I mean, it's supposed to be like an entry, like Russian for Dummies, and this complete Russian beginner to intermediate course. I'm sorry. Honestly, I have not finished any of them because these books act like textbooks. So it's basically all in English with teaching you, let's say, how many cases, blah blah blah. I mean, it's like a manual to the language. Gives you lists of phrases, words to know, извините, наверное, perhaps. Okay, so yeah, it's like a manual, I think. So this one, and so it's really like school is what I'm trying to say. And sometimes I do still open it and refer and see what's there, because of course, as a learner, as a language learner, as a Russian language learner, there's always something new. Or even in English, as a language that I consider myself native in, there's always some new term that I have that will be novel to me. Okay. But I do refer to them, but I don't really try to consume them. I don't really consume them as much as I consume books like these, short stories in Russian, and this is all in Russian. I think I've discussed in my other videos about the author, Olly Richards. He has a lot of basically the same stories in many different languages. So this is Russian, and he has Brazilian Portuguese, Spanish, French. I have the French ones as well because I'm also learning French, and I find it more satisfying to read even just a few sentences from this book compared to answering the exercises in books like these, because books like these give you like this is the number that most of the time there is no, I mean, there is no greater context around it, but it's still useful. It just depends. And then I also like this one, 101 Conversations in Simple Russian. And I actually got 101 Conversations in Simple French and Intermediate French because I'm also learning French. And I like this book because it actually has a story. The introduction is in English and it teaches you how to read and use this book. Basically says intensive learning versus extensive learning, and then aim for completion, and then read for gist, don't look up words, don't analyze grammar, just read the entire thing. So okay, so there's a story in here, but then there's like their characters in English, so you get a gist of what's happening, what's going to happen, and then there's an introduction to the story, and then the conversations start happening. There's a short like introduction to each conversation, and then the conversation follows. This is actually not for, I mean, I bought this thinking that I could just start reading it after I know, like after I've learned how to read Cyrillic. I thought I could just start with this book and this book, but it turns out that I needed a upon checking again, it does say CFR A2 to B1, meaning I have to get past A1, meaning I have to have a lot of at least a significant amount of vocabulary in my brain, or I mean I have to know a significant amount of vocabulary to be considered an A1 to actually enjoy these books. So I think which is exactly what happened. I've had these books since 2021, so more than like again 14-15 months ago, and I have only started enjoying these books I think I could say after at least 12 months, or at around 500 hours, because right now I have around 561 hours of learning in Russian. And also on Link, I also recently just reached the B1 level, meaning I know, I think 500 words in Russian. That includes not like different conjugations of the same word. So 500 is actually not a lot, because I like, for example, with the word to speak, говорит, I know like the conjugation of говорю, говорит, говорите, but those are all just the same words. But on Link, they're considered different words. So actually 500 is not a lot when you think about it. But yes, right now I am jumping and I'm reading both of them slowly and just enjoying. And then the book that I'm most excited about, and the newest one in my arsenal of or my resource is actually this one. It's Chekhov's Stories in Russian, a parallel text Russian reader by Mark R. Pettus. And this is volume 1. I actually bought 2 other books by Dostoevsky, The Death of Ivan Ilyich and Преступление и Наказание, Crime and Punishment. And Crime and Punishment is actually the reason why I started to, I got interested in learning Russian, is because in high school, my high school English teacher gave that book to us to read as an assignment. And it's a long book, so actually finished reading it way after the school year ended, but I found the story interesting because it is interesting, and for those who are familiar with it, and I thought, why not try to read it in Russian? And I found the channel College Russian, and then she was also explaining some of the famous quotes from the book, and knowing how to read and understand some Russian gives the story a different meaning, or it's like how it's like I understand, like I studied Mandarin in school, and I also speak Hokkien. There are just some things and like sayings and I don't know if it's an idiom or probably phrases that sound better in short in the language itself, and for you to understand what it means, and when people tell you, you have to understand the story behind the phrase. It's like I'm sure there in all the languages of the world, the same thing happens. Like there are phrases that use that are based on the history, like the literature of that language, and it's not easily translated because it's connected to history, it's connected to a lot of things that happened before, and then used in a certain context by a certain author in a certain book, and then that evolved into being used by a certain person. There's just a lot of things that can happen with language, and reading it in the original is different from translation. It's the same experience that I'm hoping to get after I read The Alchemist in Portuguese, O Alquimista. The words, of course, I mean, the English translation was good, which is why when I read the book in English, it was I really liked it. But being able to read it in Portuguese, of course, it's a different experience. So I would like to experience it in Russian as well. So I've started, I think last night actually, I started reading this part. This one is, what's this? The Death of a Clerk. Is this Smart? Smert Chinovnika. Smert Chinovnika. Oh, as in... Oh, okay. So, this book has the Russian on one side, the English on one side. So, and then there are words like translations here, like It starts here. One fine evening, в один прекрасный вечер. I think that's one fine evening. So when I was reading this last night, I am actually surprised that I was able to understand at least, not all of course, but being recognize the words. And even if I have the English at the like side by side, I know that one fine evening is adin because it's on one. This means on one. Прекрасный вечер. I know that I know krasny is beautiful, or that's the root, krasny. So прекрасный вечер is evening, and then it follows what was I saying? So basically, even at the level of Russian that I have right now, which is basically, I think, a very low A2 maybe, I can already start enjoying things like Chekhov's stories. So I'm just going to be reading. Here it says here прекрасный means beautiful, wonderful, fine. Ni, no less. And then executor. The accent is at the U. Executor, a lowly bureaucratic position. And then kresla, gladiet, to look. Vinocle. See, vinocle is binoculars, it says here. So I am excited to keep reading this and just add to the hours that I'm learning Russian. And I'm going to continue finishing this and then returning to previous ones and reading it again, and etc. So that is where my Russian is right now, and I feel good, of course. I feel confident, and I'm excited. I'm excited for Преступление и наказание to arrive. Although I'm also reading it on link, but it's much, I think it's a bit difficult because the sentences are long. So if I do sentence translate, for example, it's online, like it's on my computer, so it's kind of like sometimes I want to give my eyes some time to rest from looking at gadgets all day for work. But it's the same thing, same experience. Reading great what's this? Great stories, books, literary stories, literature in Russian, and it is satisfying, and that's where I am at right now. And I would continue reading all of it and enjoying Russian basically. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my walkthrough of the books that I used, and probably the progress that I'm showing. And if you are interested in learning Russian, start today, because 15 months later, hopefully, you'll get to a place where I am right now, if not even faster. Because when I started learning Russian, I was also I was also continuing to learn Portuguese, so my time was split. But I imagine if I learned Russian 100% alone, my progress would be as faster than right now. Because with Portuguese, I finished 600 hours in less than 6 months, which was why I was able to finish Welcomista really fast. And of course, because the language, the letters are in Latin alphabet, not in Cyrillic, so of course that was faster. So that is another milestone or a progress report for my Russian. And hope to see you in the next video. Пока-пока!